Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. Let's do this thing. I am Gabriel Morency, and we're ready to roll. We're going to be kicking it with Layzie the Savage from Los Angeles, California. Going to send it to San Jose, Costa Rica, where the premier combat sport odds maker in the business, Joey Odessa, will join us as we all take a deep breath following a flurry of activity over the summer in the octagon. Yet all things are quiet and silent for the next couple of weeks. There's a ton of great fights coming up, and let's be honest, it was a rough summer. It's been a rough year for diehard UFC fans. You know, we all love NFL football, and I like preseason football, but you don't want to watch preseason football for 12 months. You can watch preseason football for 3-4 weeks, and then you're like, yeah, when's the real stuff coming? It's like we were watching preseason UFC action, UFC 2. So to speak. And, you know, Cyborg Santos sort of, you know, stuck in oblivion. The Diaz brothers, oh, they're not moving any needles. There was, you know, Ben Askren gets exiled to ONE FC. So many fighters not getting signed. It was pretty frustrating. We're getting a lot of the same old boring fights, but as we talked about last week, let's give credit where credit is due. The UFC has been on a roll as of late. You know, rumor is Gina Carano was around the corner. Holly Holm officially signed. Multiple seven-time world boxing champion in Holly Holm. You go down the list. Anderson Silva set to return, and arguably the best news of them all is the fact that Nick Diaz has signed a 3-fight deal to return to the octagon. A lot of people thought after Dana ripped Nate for saying that he doesn't move the needle that Nick wouldn't be coming back anytime soon, but boom, here he is. Let's bring in a man who is an expert on all things Diaz and many, many more from one of our favorite MMA websites, MiddleEasy.com. Layzie the Savage steps up and in. Layzie, it's always a pleasure, brother. How you doing, man?
Oh, doing good, man. Doing real good. Thanks for having me on.
So, you know, like I was saying, Layzie, you know, it's kind of a tough time in the UFC for the last year and a half. The expansion, they were firing off cards. I think they got to give Fox like 5,000 hours worth of programming a year. And you know, I like this stuff. I enjoy it. I'm a fan of it. And I'm going to be betting on it. But it got to the point that people were telling me this. The odds makers were telling me this. You know, the only people who are really watching some of these, you know, some of the past cards were just degenerates, basically. It was becoming just sort of a gambling niche. But last couple of weeks, man, I feel something, you know. You know, Gustafsson gets hurt, but boom, no hesitation right away. Cormier's in. Rousey's fighting every second week, basically, and if she wasn't hurt, she'd probably be fighting again. You know, we got some good fights coming up. Conor McGregor, ton of hype around him, but he's backing it up. I'm looking forward to the Poirier fight, and I'm stoked that Diaz is back, and I can't wait to find out who he's going to fight.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, the Diaz signing was great news. 3 fights. You know, I hope Nick's happy, and I'm sure he is. I don't think he would have signed the contract had it not been something he was 100% okay with. So, yeah, I'm excited to see who they announce that he's facing. I hope it's Anderson Silva, Johnny Hendricks, or, you know, and then potentially Robbie Lawler maybe. You know, those would be 3 fights that come to my mind that I'd like to see. But, yeah, the Conor McGregor hype is real, too. I mean, I think the kid really is that good, and he's definitely a breath of fresh air and something the UFC is in need of. They need stars like Ronda Rousey and you know, guys like Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. So I think Conor's great, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing that fight against Poirier because I know Dustin's tough as nails, you know. But the fight that I really want to see still is Nick Diaz versus Anderson Silva, man. I just think that it doesn't get much more exciting than that.
Yeah, Nick Diaz versus Anderson Silva makes sense on a lot of levels. From an entertainment standpoint, you know, neither of these guys have to worry about their legacy. I think they're both comfortable going in there and just laying it on the line. Maybe Anderson would be a little bit more concerned, but both coming off the layoff as well. There's been talk of that Anderson Silva potential George St. Pierre matchup, but George isn't in the picture, and right now Nick Diaz is. You mentioned Johnny Hendricks. You got Robbie Lawler. How about Matt Brown, man? That'd be a total war as well. But really, there's a common denominator here, isn't there, Layzie? In that pretty much any fight that we put Nick Diaz in, it sounds cool as hell. Oh, he's fighting Matt Brown. Awesome. Oh, it's Anderson Silva. Wicked. Oh, it's Robbie Lawler. That's great. Rory McDonald. There's just any possibility is just good.
Exactly, and that's why, they had to go ahead and sign the contract, and they had to get Nick back in there, because that was just the consensus after every fight. You go to social media and everybody's like, oh, whoever had a good performance that night, whether it be, whoever it may be, they want to see them against Nick or Nate. It's automatically, like Cerrone. Cerrone goes out there and whoops Miller's ass, and everybody goes to the internet and is like, oh, let's see the rematch with Nate Diaz. Don't forget that Nate, Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller main evented that fight night, and everybody was talking about, oh, they could be title contention. Don't forget that Nate Diaz whooped them both. And for Dana, who I respect and admire a lot, for him to say that Nate's not a needle mover, I mean, in all honesty, you don't have a guy main event 6 of your televised cards if he's not a needle mover. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that Nate Diaz is a huge draw, and I really hope that they can come to terms with him and get him a contract that he's really happy with and that he deserves, because that guy comes out there and puts the ass whooping down, just like his brother Nick, and I think they need to pay the man.
Well, now the Diaz the Diaz brothers personally pretty well, Layzie, and as you mentioned, Dana White, says, oh, he's not a needle mover. And basically, Dana White says that the Diazes are represented by a freaking moron. And, and then he comes out after and basically the Diaz brothers respond. It's amazing to me. This is the most unpredictable type of stuff ever. It's almost, you come on and, oh, we're not scared of Dana White. What's he going to do? Take our house? And then, boom, they're getting contract. It's impossible to predict. The Diaz brothers and Dana White as well recently has become pretty unpredictable. I'd like to see Ben Askren in the UFC as well. Is he the most exciting fighter in the world? No. But the fact of the matter is, the dude hasn't lost. Seems like 99.9% of fight fans hate him, which, people would want to see him fight. People would want to see Ben Askren get punched in the face. I think, there's been enough time off since Bellator. They don't have to worry, oh, there's a Bellator champion that's beating our guys right now. And I see the Dana sort of, puts his personal stuff aside here and does the deal, which is good to see, because I can't believe, even though there's a contract, and I know I saw the picture of them together, Layzie, I can't believe that everything's all great with the Diaz camp and Dana White right now, right?
I mean, you try to keep business separate from your personal feelings as much as possible. So you got to do what's best for business. But, I'm sure that if, I really am sure that this Nate Diaz thing is going to get worked out sooner or later. And if that's all good, I think everything will be all good. And, but it's Nick and Nate Diaz are really two of the only guys that can basically give the middle finger to the boss, and the boss still turns around and signs them for money. Because everybody else, to be honest, is, I don't want to say they kiss ass, but, because they know, like the Donald Cerrone thing, I don't think Donald Cerrone is kissing anybody's ass. I think I respect what he does. He goes in there, fights. Same with Matt Brown, same with Robbie Lawler. They just go in there, they fight whoever they're told to. But at the same time, Nick Diaz has been around the sport for a long time, and he is a huge draw, and there's something that, the third highest selling pay-per-view is Nick Diaz versus George St. Pierre.
Yeah, no, they're polarizing.
That is Brock Lesnar and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it how polarizing the Diaz brothers are, and we got to wrap it up, Layzie, but we encourage people to check out MiddleEasy.com, the most entertaining mixed martial arts and pop culture website out there. And in fact, we got a couple of videos that we're going to be showing that are also up on MiddleEasy.com as well. Layzie, you're a stud for taking this on such short notice. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, man.
Anytime, brother. Thanks for having me on.
There's Layzie the Savage with us. And, the Diaz brothers, You know, a lot of people hate them, let's be honest. A lot of people hate them. But you can't say that they don't move the needle, because that's preposterous, because a lot of people want to see them get beat, you know, win or lose. That's why I mentioned Ben Askren as well. And, you know, the Diaz brothers do get away with it. It's amazing, you know, that they rip Dana White as much as they do, and they rip him on Twitter, and then they end up getting deals after the fact. But you could also make an argument that the Diaz, specifically Nick Diaz, has left a hell of a lot of money on the table over the years because of his difficulty in dealing with the boss and Dana White. So it goes both ways. Joey Odessa will join us. We'll crunch some numbers. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues.